All right. So here we go. This is going to be like the budget spreadsheet video where I'm going to try to walk you through how to set up the budget spreadsheet. First, let me thank my mom. She said she made this for me and my brothers, and she's like, yeah, you can share it with everybody. Um, and she sent a whole bunch of like little mini instructions to how to use it too. So I'm going to kind of be reading off of those. Also, this is in Excel, but I can try and copy it over to a Google Sheet and see if that works um, as well. It shouldn't be too hard to get it onto a Google Sheet, but yeah. So, and also I'm going to include the spreadsheet in the description, the Excel and the Google Sheet one, if I can get that to work. That way you can download it and use it for yourself. You don't have to make it. Okay, first, I'm just going to go through the instructions. I'm going to read it word for word. So, here's the key to change your financial life by Amy Roberts. Remember, this is an example so you can make adjustments to customize to your situation and your thinking. And yeah, this is basically a spreadsheet. So this is the first tab, and then down here we have the second tab and the third tab. So we have actual spend, monthly budget, and savings. And we're gonna actually start with the monthly budget because this is kind of like the bulk of your work. This is where a lot of the work is gonna get done. And so she put example numbers in, and that's what we're going to use. But when you actually do yours, you would just start like wherever you want. Um, that way you have it put out. And if you continue to do this into like 2025 and beyond, you would just start years at the top, so that way you know like what year you're in. So the first thing we're going to look at is this is where this tab is. You're gonna do this tab at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. So this is the end of the month. We're on the 29th. August ends in a couple days. And so you would want to set this up. You would want to set up your September at the end of August, or you would set it up at the beginning of September, whatever you want. And you want, if it's too difficult to do it monthly, she says it's you can also do it bi-weekly or whenever you get paid. So if you get paid bi-weekly or in a weird pay period, you can set it up like that. But I think monthly kind of works a little bit better, um, especially if you're like working a pretty stable job, um, and that works. But if you do it bi-weekly or like half the month, you would just have to make like January first half, January second half column. You just make two different columns, um, and that way you have it all situated, kind of like that. Okay, and so she says on this tab you should estimate what your income will be for the pay period or for the period based on your prior paychecks. And then you need to estimate what your expenses will be. This is when you want to think ahead and plan out not only your normal expenses like food and gas, but any special or unusual expenses for the month. You can also look at prior actual monthly spendings to get a sense of what you spend each month on certain categories. So, yeah, like if you're like, okay, well, how much do I set aside? Look back and see how much you're spending. Or if you're trying to cut back, look at what you're spending and then cut it down by like 50, 25, $50 to start. Or if it's a lot, you can kind of make a sense of like, okay, how much am I trying to save here, here, here. And so basically how this works is we're going to start in the income section right here. Um, and as you can see, so this the example number she used was 1,500, right? Assuming that you're getting paid 1,500 every month. And so yeah, you're gonna put like your paycheck. So this is how much you're gonna get paid for the month. You're gonna get paid 1,500 for the month. Um, and then the college savings, this is just money from my savings that I am taking out of my savings to spend, right? If you have different sources of income, let's say your paycheck in one job is 1,500, but then you have a second job where you're getting paid 500, right? You would just put paycheck two, or you could put your job title or whatever the paycheck is. You set that up. Wherever you're getting your income, you're just putting that up here in this monthly budget spot, and you're going to do this. Then you're going to make like a little line, and then underneath it, you're going to put this equation up here, this equals sum, uh, wherever the cells are, you're just going to do that, right? So if you're trying to add two cells together, it's like, okay, well, we're in B4 or B7, B8, right? Add those together, 2000, right? So essentially you have $2,000 a month to play with, if that makes sense. And then, yeah, so you just add all your sources of income um, up here, right? So that's where you start. Obviously, it changes month to month, I'm sure, right? So it's always okay to get like a rough estimate of like how much you're getting, right? Then we bring it down to the expenses. So this is kind of where she kind of put out like some basic categories, and obviously everybody's different, so you can add your own categories in these rows right here. These are some of the basic ones that usually a lot of people have. Majority of people have these. Basically, what you're going to then do is take that 2,000, and how are you going to break down that 2,000, right? How do we break down the $2,000? So we'll start with just eating out, right? Like this is like Chick-fil-A, Pizza Luce, Ben and Jerry's, Culver's, anytime you eat out that is non-groceries, right? These are non-groceries for eating out, right? And then you're gonna budget. So she said, example, 100, right? We're looking at the month of January, by the way. We're not worried about February. We'll get there in a second. You're budgeting aside $100, right? So you're okay with spending $100 for the month on eating out. Gas, you're okay with spending $100 a month. You're budgeting aside $100 a month on gas, right? Entertainment. So for me, entertainment, I kind of look at entertainment as like subscriptions or like paying for movies. So this goes like Spotify, Netflix, Hulu Plus, YouTube Premium, stuff like that. Any like subscription-based model for entertainment. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't put games into here just because I'm not paying for a new game monthly. Here you budget aside 100 a month for that as well. So now we're at 300 here. Then we get to clothes, and as you can see, clothes is bolded, right? Obviously expenses is, but that's like the header. So you could technically just like make this a header if you wanted to. Clothes is bolded, right? And so she says that there are also bolded categories of items that you might want to consider saving for each month so that when they become an actual expense, you have the funds set aside already. It's not a surprise and doesn't screw up your budget for the month. You would want to transfer this money from your checking to your savings account each month. So if that didn't make any sense, basically, well, this is money that you're setting aside into your savings account, right? This is money that you're quote unquote spending, but you're spending it into your savings. You're not actually spending $50 a month on clothes, right? You're not being like, okay, I have $50 a month to buy clothes. What should I buy, right? This is money that you're just setting aside into savings. So that way you have it for whenever you want to buy it later, right? So that way when it becomes an expense, like she said, you already have $50 ready to go, and you don't have to look at like, okay, well, do I have the 50 to spend? It's like, no, I do have 50 to spend because last month I put 50 into that fund, which we will get over here in the savings. We'll cover this last. But yeah, so you're setting aside $50 a month from your income into savings for clothes, the clothes category. Then games, let's say you bought a game in the month of January, that would be an expense. That's why I say I don't put it into entertainment because you're not always spending uh, money on a game every month, right? As you can see, like February, you didn't buy a game, right? And then you would put your phone and your insurance as well. So you know your phone bill is $50 a month. You would just put 50 minus 50. If you knew your insurance was $50 a month, minus 50. Car, as you can see, car is bolded. She has negative minus 50. Again, this doesn't mean you're like spending $50 a month on your car. This is just setting money aside so that you have it just in case. This could be for something like having to get a new tire, right? Having to get, I don't know, something to your car done, right? Like let's say something blew out in your car and you got to get something done. right? Or you're just trying to save up for a new car, right? You're setting aside $50 every month to your car fund, right? So this is either stuff that you're gonna work on your car or you're saving up for a new one. And you're setting $50 aside. You're not spending that money. It's just going aside because you're not planning on spending something for your car, for example. Vacation, same, it's bolded. You're not taking a $60 vacation every month. It's not what you're doing. You're setting $60 aside for a vacation in the future, right? So that way it goes up in your savings and you're like, oh, okay, I have this amount in my savings for a vacation, which we will again cover later. Rent, let's say your rent's $1,000. There you go. Groceries here, gifts. Gifts again, you're not buying a gift unless you know you're planning on buying a gift for that month, then you would obviously put that into your budget expenses, right? You're not buying any gifts that month. You're setting aside $50 for gifts for the future, right? Hopefully that makes sense right here. This I should have just put this up with rent because it's all the same. Hair, like same with me. Like I get haircuts, right? Or like if I had dread still, I would budget for the retwist. How much are retwists going to cost per month? It's bolded. That's money that I'm putting away into savings, right? And then miscellaneous. This is things like you're making a Walmart or Target run because you ran out of toothpaste, right? Or you need to get more toilet paper, or you need to go get Dayquil, right? Stuff like that, right? Where it's like, where would you put toilet paper in any of these, right? Where would you put toothpaste in any of these? Where would you put Dayquil? You wouldn't put it in any of these, right? It would just be like a miscellaneous expense. But yeah, the miscellaneous is for things that like don't fit into any of those categories, but they're kind of just things that you need. And then at the end, you're going to total it all up with this equation right here. Again, it's just a sum equation, pretty simple standard stuff. You would just take um, everything from this uh, from B6, so from here down to here, right? And it would just sum it all together, add it all up. It's going to come out to 2,000, and then here you're going to just take whatever your B9 is, which is this, minus your B29, which is this, to zero. So you should be at $0. This should always be at $0. Right? And usually you would put this total, you would set this total up like this, so that way it will like show you this number. So like let's say for example, if I got rid of this, right? See, it would say -50, right? There's $50. If you put it back, it's zero. That's how this thing works. It automatically updates um, whenever you make a change to the cell. And it should never have a number there. It should always be zero, so that way you know where your money is going. And then, so now we're going to cover one more topic. This is the true up from the prior month. So if you go over to February, you see this true up, right? And you're probably like, what is a true up, right? So the true up is the amount from the prior month. It's the amount of money from the prior month that you didn't spend, right? So this is the money that you didn't spend, right? So this comes from the actual spend. Right here you can see the equation, actual spend B21, right? You go to B21, here's B21, right? This is the actual amount that you didn't spend, right? And this is money that you can put anywhere, right? So she says there's a true up amount from the prior month at the top that I added since you'll never get the budget exactly right month to month. So you can either figure out the difference each month from your budget to actual, or start with how much you actually have in your checking account as your starting point each month, right? So for the true up, you can either do it as like how much you didn't spend from the prior month, or you can just start with whatever you have in your checking account. Um, I kind of like the true up method because this allows you to look at like, okay, I have $35 that I didn't spend last month, right? Now I can put this into any other category I want. If I want to put it into savings, or if I know I need to eat out a little bit more next month, I have $35 I didn't spend last month that I know I can put in to eating out this month, right? Or if I know like, hey, this vacation's coming up and I'm still a couple dollars short, I'm gonna put $35 into the vacation, right? That's kind of what the true up is. That's kind of the point of it. Um, and we'll get over to the actual spend side. So hopefully this all makes sense. But you want to fill this out at the beginning or the end of the month for the next month, right? It can also be negative, right? She just did a positive example because the whole point of the budget is you're trying to figure out to save money a little bit. So that's the point of that. Okay, now to actual spend. This is pretty self-explanatory. Um, this is just tracking how much you're actually spending. You usually want to update this um, either periodically, bi-weekly, or weekly, or month. You could even do it monthly if you really wanted to. It just takes longer. Again, if you look, set up in the month, um, and it says bold items are savings. I should have put that over here if I was going to start here, but it's okay. The categories are the exact same from the monthly budget, except this time this is your actual spending. Again, pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to go through every week and just put in how much you spent, right? Or you could do it monthly, right? And just change the number if you do it every weekly. But so like for example, it just says you spent 90 here, 120 here, 75 here, 50 here. You didn't buy any games here, right? You'd put your phone, insurance bill there, your car, right? The things that are bolded this does not mean you spent $50 on clothes, right? Don't get it twisted, right? Go back to the monthly. You're putting aside 50. This quote unquote spending is just going into savings, which we're about to cover in a second, right? 60. You didn't take a $60 vacation, right? You're just putting that 60 that you spent into savings, but you have to still list it, right? As a spend, even though you're not spending, right? Rent, groceries, gifts, utilities, hair, computer, miscellaneous, all that stuff. I total at the end of the month using this equation, right? So you're just basically, again, it's a sum equation. You're adding everything up and you're saying, oh, shoot, I spent less than $2,000 a month for the entire month, right? I spent less than 2,000, right? That's where this number, the true up number, comes from, the total that you spent for the month. And that's where you can do that. So then now for the next month, so let's say this was your February, like that's how much you would spend in January. February, you can adjust how much you're planning to spend. As you can see, she put the example like, okay, well maybe I should spend more on entertainment, right? I should spend more on entertainment, should spend less on gas and eating out. You just adjust for where you're at, right? Or if you have a new expense that you want to put in, right? You add that into as well, and you have to readjust how much you're actually spending. But yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is pretty easy. Um, this is just to help set up this and this, which we're going to get to. So hopefully this all makes sense. So now we're going to go into savings. This is the savings tab. It goes all the way down for the months, and it's set up a little bit differently than the spending or the budget. You see, we have different categories and columns right here. So we have emergency fund, vacation, gift, car, clothes, computer, college, and total, right? You could do this right now, right? You don't even have to do this or this, but you could definitely do this if you have a savings account. So this tab is connected to the monthly budget tab. Like I said, it's this one and this one too as well. This tab is to be intentional and specific about what you plan to do with your savings. Some of it you will need to spend on a regular basis to supplement your expenses if your paycheck doesn't cover all your expenses, and some is money you designate as an emergency fund that you don't plan to ever spend unless there's an emergency. Each month, you can add to your savings based on putting aside money from your monthly budget. This is usually items that you want to save up for. You don't pay for monthly, but they are more significant, so you don't want to be surprised by them in the future, right? You can customize this tab for whatever categories make sense to you. This is total savings. This total savings should be close to what you have in your bank account for savings, but instead of just a lump sum of money in there, you have an idea of what you're planning to do with that money. So here we go. So she's saying, for example, you have $7,750 in your bank account. right? That's essentially what she's saying. That's how much you're starting with. 5,000 of that is in your emergency fund, right? And this is January, right? This is for the month of January. Um, 5,000 is in your emergency fund. $200 is you're putting into vacation money, right? So this is money that you're setting aside for a vacation, right? You have 250 for the gifts set aside in your savings right now. 200 for a car, 200 or 100 clothes. You don't have anything for the computer. You have about 2,000 for your college money. Right? Then, as you can see right here in this row, you have add, right? So this is all added money. This is all added money. So this is money that you're adding, like I said, from the monthly budget and your actual spending. And look at the numbers. They're the exact same from the monthly budget and from the actual spending, right? So you're adding 60 bucks into your savings account for a vacation. You're adding 50 for the gift, 50 for the car, 50 for clothes. You would do computer. I'm not adding any into the college. And so there's that. So 200, you total that all up with this equation right here. You also total this up from that equation. But yeah, total it all up, you get this number right here. So you got 210. Then you're spending, right? Right there, spending 500. That you just total it up from whatever you spend. So let's say in the month of, I don't know, whatever month you're doing this for, and you're buying gifts, right? You're buying $100 worth of gifts. You would put minus 100 in this column right here. And you see that number changes. All of a sudden, that number changes, right? And this number changes as well, right? This number changes as well, right? Because now you're spending 600 bucks from your savings to this is now your new savings amount, right? You would just do that all the way through. So if you do spend money on a gift or like the clothes, let's say you buy like 50 bucks worth of clothes, right? Okay, that's how much it comes out, and this is your new total, right? And it automatically will update for you. If you use these equations, it will automatically update for you, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And then you would just do that every month, right? So then you would just add money in every month from your paychecks. So that way you know, like, okay, here's how much I have in savings. And this is your new totals for the month, right? And then you would go into February, you would do the same thing. You would add however much you want to add for that. And then again, here's your total. Use the equations. You would go in your spend. Let's say you bought one of the $260 vacation minus 260. Change this, and then you get your new things. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much how you want to run the spreadsheet. Now, obviously, it seems like a lot to do, um, especially since if you don't have consistent expenses, it's going to seem kind of tedious and it's like, oh, but do I really have to? But if you start doing it now, eventually when you do have those consistent expenses, it's not going to look foreign and it's not going to be, you're not going to be questioning where your money is going, if that makes sense. Um, and so the last piece of knowledge that my mom is giving, um, she says the last piece of the puzzle is to have discipline to stick to a budget and remember the difference between a want and a need. Again, this is only a tool to help you understand where your money is going and how you can possibly save your money, but it doesn't work if you don't have the discipline to stick to this, right? If you don't have the discipline to stick to all of this, you can throw away this all because it doesn't really matter, right? So you have to have the discipline to be like, okay, I already spent, let's say you're like 3 weeks into September and you're like, dang, I already spent all of my eating out money, right? I budgeted for 75 to eat out and I've already spent it all. That means for the next week, you can't go eat out. No matter how bad you want to, you really can't, right? Unless you're planning on taking some money out of a different category, right? Unless you plan on taking money out of groceries to go eat out or like you miscellaneous, right? You'd have to take money out of your miscellaneous, right? Stay disciplined so that way you're not confused where the money is going and you can actually see some growth. Like again, this is what the true up is. This true up number is how much money you saved, quote unquote saved, right? Because this is how much you actually spend. You budgeted for 2,000, but you spent 1,965. Yeah, so hopefully this all makes sense. I don't know if it did or not. I hope it does. I think it's a good video to kind of explain it. I'm going to again link these spreadsheets in. These are all tabbed spreadsheets as well. So um, my mom also said at the end, I'm available for office hours if you'd like to discuss anything. Good luck. You can do this. So yeah, hopefully this helps everything out.